Yo, Still Bills, what's the deal, man? I'm on my way to pick up my daughter on this Friday Eve, and I'm going to the gym to get some work in shortly. Maybe about, the next 4 hours or so, 5 hours or so, man. But peep game, man, I want to talk about something, man, and that's David Benavidez and Anthony Yarde, man. I'm really curious as to why people think that this fight is just going to be a wash for David Benavidez. I'm really curious for that, man. I've said it before. I've said it on Nuke's podcast, who I think is going to win. But I want to do a prediction, sometime next month as we get closer and closer to the fight. But I just want to know what makes people think that he's just about to go in here and just run over this nigga when he hasn't really done that. He did it with, David has won both of his fights convincingly, in both of his fights at light heavyweight. He beat Vosdick convincingly. I thought Vosdick swept the last 4 rounds. We started to see David gas out. He could not put a dent in Vosdick. And I thought he clearly beat David Morrell. But when you're not just... David's entire mystique surrounding him and his, how he's marketing the Mexican monster, that shit equates to being a monster, a juggernaut, a killer, someone who's going there and just, destroying it, Godzilla-like. No city is the same after Godzilla get done walking through that motherfucker, you dig? That's what you think of when you think of the monster. The monster in a way. When you think of monster in a way, monster that knocked out every opponent he's been in with except when he got to MJ Akhmadaliev. And this is him jumping up consistently in weight and doing it. David hasn't done that yet. He hasn't really significantly hurt nobody. He hasn't significantly damaged nobody. He didn't put a dent in Vosdick. Like, at all. He didn't put a dent in that dude. Won the fight, definitely. He swept in first 8 rounds. I think he lost the last 4. But he swept in first 8. I don't think anybody could argue that David won that fight. Or argue against David winning that fight. But he didn't put a dent in. He's not as destructive up there as he was at 168 pounds. So when you got a dude who's been in there with, stronger punchers, proven to be bigger punchers at the division, and you have a style that complements this dude's style, and he's a big puncher as well in the division, and he's not no light heavyweight that's been sitting on the couch for the past 3 years or so, and he's not no super middleweight jumping up, chasing somebody. He's a career light heavyweight. How do y'all think he's just about to go in here and just eviscerate this man in the manner that y'all think he's gonna do it in? That's a legitimate question. Because I've been seeing a lot of Anthony Yarde. He gasses down the stretch. He maintained his gas tank pretty well going on the hunt against Lyndon Arthur. Now, granted, Lyndon Arthur, you're not going to have to put as many punches together on Lyndon Arthur. A lot of your stamina issues is going to come up through you having to go on the hunt chasing this nigga. It's not the same as David Benavidez, where he's going to be right there in front of you and y'all going to be able to just let bombs fly, fucking, 100 punches thrown in a round ass niggas, you dig? That's the type of fight that you're going to get when you're in front of David Benavidez. But you can't say Anthony Yarde gasses down the stretch when we seen David not gas all the way to the point where he's just completely depleted and he's so spent that he's getting knocked out off of a jab. Nah, he hasn't been that depleted. But when you breathing with your mouth open and you're not in there with somebody who's able to push you the way that Kovalev was able to push Anthony Yarde, but he's still in there breathing with his mouth open, I'm like, you can't ignore that. And niggas is being real, just dismissive when it comes to this dude. And that's what pisses me off when it comes to David Benavidez. Every fight that he's been in, every step-up fight he's had, he's lost. Okay, David Benavidez has not had a step-up fight equivalent of a Beterbiev or Sergey Kovalev. He is not. He is not. And how do I know that? Because he went in there with a dude that Beterbiev sent off into retirement. And he wasn't able to put a dent in the dude. He hasn't had a fight as significant as a Sergey Kovalev or a fucking Artur Beterbiev. He hasn't. So even Anthony Yarde getting knocked out in both of those fights, those dudes are better fighters than David Benavidez. That's not saying that Anthony Yarde is going to win the fight. Y'all know I'm not no fan of no David Benavidez. Y'all know that. But I'm calling this shit objectively. They are better fighters than David Benavidez. Both of them were legitimate pound-for-pound fighters. Beterbiev top 5 pound-for-pound fighter when he went undisputed. Kovalev was top 5 pound-for-pound fighters when he was unified. Like, we not about to sit here and play this game like those two dudes was just some anyways ass niggas. And even the version of Sergey that Anthony Yarde got to, that wasn't the crusher Kovalev. He was crushing shit enough, but it wasn't the Kovalev that knocked out Cedric Agnew with a jab to the body, with a stab jab. It wasn't that Kovalev. It wasn't even the Kovalev that put Andre Ward down face first on the canvas. That wasn't the same Kovalev, but that was still a damn good Kovalev. That was a Kovalev who got that get back off of getting knocked out by the later Alvarez. That was not no bullshit ass Sergey Kovalev. So when you sit here and say that every big fight he's been in, every step up fight he's had, he's lost. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're just not going to beat those two. You're not better than them two individuals right there. Because them two individuals proved to be the cream of the crop in that division. David has yet to fight the cream of the crop in both of the divisions that he's campaigned in. So what makes y'all so sure that he's just going to go in here and beat Anthony Yarde? And I'm getting real surface level questions and just little childish shit. Little childish shit. And a lot of this comes it comes from a place of not respecting the European talent pool. They don't think much of the Brits. They don't think the British boxing scene is like worthy of all this praise. They don't see it like that. They just see a Euro bum who's just at the mercy of any American fighter who steps into the division. And I'm like, y'all are playing yourselves. This is not going to be no easy fight for both of them. And just Anthony Yarde has proven knockouts. He, has proven his power at 175 pounds. Y'all can say what y'all want about Lyndon Arthur. I'm not saying Lyndon Arthur is this world beater or nothing like that, but when you have that style where you have to go on the hunt and you have to be a little bit more calculated and measured in your approach to cut the ring off and find a way to pin this fleet-footed fighter to the rope who wants to take half steps back off the jab and work behind his straight shots, and you find a way to circumvent that and pin him to the ropes and do damage, even if it's not significant damage, your pressure is aggressive enough, is effective enough to where you're able to impose your will on him, pin him to the ropes, and just outwork him. And that's what he did. And once again, I'm not saying that the dude, Lyndon Arthur ain't Bivol. Clearly he ain't Bivol. Bivol beat his ass. But nonetheless, that style usually gives, not necessarily, when I think Anthony Yarde isn't the same pressure fighter as an Artur Beterbiev, not even close. And we saw that. But Anthony Yarde is a pressure fighter, yeah, but he doesn't have fast feet. He's not agile on his feet like Beterbiev is. He's not. So you take that style that Lyndon Arthur has and you put it in front of someone like an Anthony Yarde, who's a front foot dominant fighter or whatever, but it's a little bit more easier to keep him off balance as opposed to an Artur Beterbiev. And he still found a way to get around that style and neutralize it. This ain't gonna be no easy fight for no David Benavidez, dog. I don't know what the fuck you niggas is talking about. I don't get it, man. It just it annoys me. It annoys me. I'm seeing people say David Morrell is like, I wouldn't pick David Morrell to beat no Anthony Yarde. No, I wouldn't. People are now, amping David Morrell, who's a good fighter, but let's pump the brakes. Let's pump the brakes, bro. He has not looked good at any fight he's been in at light heavyweight. He hasn't looked as spectacular as he did when he was at 168. So let's just pump the brakes. Let's sit back and just slowly and objectively unpack everything. And as we're unpacking everything, we're going to get to certain truths. And those truths that I want you to tell me is, what exactly is David Benavidez presenting? Like, the type of threat is he presenting that's going to that has him completely head and shoulders above Anthony Yarde, to the point where it's just an undisputed, unanimous decision that he is going to go in here and just steamroll this nigga. And you're not going to be able to give me a logical answer. You'll be able to give me the dick sucking answer. Yeah, you'll be able to give me that. But that tells me it's not logical and it's not objective. That's a fanboy answer. David Benavidez is not about to go in here and run over no Anthony Yarde, dog. Unless he pulls a rabbit. Now, granted, I've been wrong before. I was just wrong in my prediction with Canelo and Crawford. And I'm overjoyed to be proven wrong about that. So, nobody in here, we ain't Nostradamus and any other fucking prophet. We not the Prophet Muhammad or nothing like that. We not none of them dudes. We're just, we're regular dudes bringing forth I won't say objective because everybody ain't objective. We regular dudes bringing forth an analysis based on the data that we've been able to compile together off of fights that we've watched. That's all you can do. We can't see into the future and see what's going to happen in the next month and a half. We can't do that. We can't do that. We're not the Most High. And off of the data that I've been able to put, piece together through watching both of these dudes fight, David Benavidez is not about to go in there and just run over no Anthony Yarde. It's not gonna happen unless this dude unless he pulls a super rabbit. It's going to be a competitive fight. It's going to be a competitive fight. And that's just what that is, man. That's just... oh, man. It's going to be a competitive fight, man. I think it's a dope fight. I'm glad that David is finally like, fuck Canelo, and he's taking initiative to lament his own legacy. And let's say he does lose, because y'all know I'm not no Benavidez fan. If he does lose, so the fuck what? I still want to see him in there with Bivol and Benavidez. I still want to see him in there with Callum Smith. I still want to see him in there with Joshua Buatsi. I would still want to see him in there with Willie Hutchinson. I would still want to see him in there with Alberto Ramirez. I want to see him in there with all these dudes. If Khalil Cole is able to get to that position where he's a legitimate contender and David is still campaigning in the division, wouldn't mind seeing him in there with him. I wouldn't mind seeing him in there with fucking Najee Lopez if Lopez gets to that level and David Benavidez is still campaigning there. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind him seeing him fight no motherfucking Ben Whitaker. If Ben Whitaker is in position to where he's able to compete, compete for a belt, or he's close to, he's at contender level. I'm cool with that. So the fuck what if he loses? I don't give a fuck. It's gonna be funny to tell motherfuckers, yeah, I told you, dumbass, he's not like how y'all amping him to be. But that don't mean he think he should retire if he loses. So the fuck what? It's fights I want to see Anthony Yarde in. Both of his losses have come by way of knockout. Well, 2 of his 3 losses have come by way of knockout. Who the fuck cares? You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, man, just what happens if he loses? And how do you think he's just gonna go in here? How do you think that Anthony Yarde is just off top gonna lose? I really want to know that from motherfuckers. I really want to know, cause I ain't getting no answers, man. I'm not getting answers. I'm getting answers, but it's real, surface level bullshit that you would say to, just it's talking points that you would normally hear around a table of David Benavidez fans. So, they'll ignore all of his deficiencies and highlight his opponent's, deficiencies and say this is why he's going to lose. If I say Anthony Yarde, bro, I literally have had people come at me mad as a motherfucker because I said Anthony Yarde is a more calculated counterpuncher than David Benavidez. And then in the immediate next, I'm saying it's not a big skill gap between the two of them, because neither one of these dudes are just these high level technicians in the ring. They're not. These niggas ain't on the level of a Bivol and Benavidez. They're not. They're not. Neither one of them is talented of a counterpuncher as Callum Smith. Neither one of them. I don't think neither one of them hit as hard as Callum Smith neither. But that's not saying that Callum Smith will go in here and beat these dudes. That's not saying that. You know what I'm saying? So, but people legitimately got mad at me for saying that he's a better counterpuncher than David Benavidez. Like, legit, like, how dare you? How dare you say some shit like that? I remember asking Mirage, dumbass, man, what's the difference between David Benavidez and Joe Smith Jr.? And the only answer I get, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh, no, I'm not. I'm asking a question. What's the difference between the two of them? They're carbon copies of each other if we being 150% real. Neither one of them have a significant skill set, but within that skill, Joe Smith Jr. within that skill set was able to do some good things as a light heavyweight. Like knock B-Hop out of the ring. Beat the shit out of Eleider Alvarez. I don't know why I keep butchering that nigga name, but beat the shit out of Eleider Alvarez. I almost did it again. Like, what are we doing, man? Like, just boxing, all that. It's not. Sometimes it's not always about skill set. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just about grit and determination, and that's what Joe Smith Jr. had. That's what Joe Smith Jr. had. So, you know, when you look at Benavidez, it's really no difference between the two of them. Benavidez has the slight advantage in hand speed, but there's not a big skill. There's not a difference between the two of them that you say, yo, well, this is. No, it's not. It's not. Joe Smith Jr. may set his punches up a tad, or he's a little bit more effective with his jab. That's about it. That's about it. David Benavidez has the hand speed. That's about it. Both plotters, both front foot dominant fighters, man. There's no special effects with these cats. They seek and destroy type fighters. It is what it is. So you sound stupid getting mad at me for me saying that Anthony Yarde is a more calculated counterpuncher than a David Benavidez. You don't be mad at me. You know what I'm saying? Get off your knees and simply look at it objectively. And you'll say, all right, cool. That's not saying that he's going to beat David Benavidez. That's just saying that if you're making an analysis between the two of them, Anthony Yarde he's a better counterpuncher than David Benavidez. He is. That's just a fact. So with all that being said, what makes motherfuckers think that, I mean, because you also have to think about, like I said, they're both, David Benavidez is a seek and destroy type of fighter. So he's going to be in there. He's going to be at a range where he can get hit because as he stated before, I want the shootout. I like the shootout. He's an action fighter. I bet that. Anthony Yarde, he's not no sugarfoot fucking sweet science, sour science ass nigga. He's going to be right there to get hit as well. He's going to be right there to get hit as well. Now, who protects themselves better? Neither one of these dudes are defensively immaculate like that. It just so happens Anthony Yarde is better at making an opponent miss and capitalizing off the miss. He's better in that field. He is. And with that small skill set right there, that small space and separation and skill, what makes you think, and this isn't David Morrell, because David Morrell is a more put together fighter than the David Benavidez. He just didn't have the experience to utilize it. He's a more fundamentally sound fighter, but even with his fundamentals, he's still he's unseasoned and he's stagnant. He's stagnant as a fighter. You know what I'm saying? He just doesn't have the grit that David Benavidez has. But like I said, he was unseasoned. Anthony Yarde is a seasoned fighter. He's a seasoned veteran up there. So that small separation in skill, that small gap in skill between the two of them, what makes you think he's not going to be able to utilize that and make it a tough and competitive bout? He can make his opponent miss and make him pay. He can set traps with that left hook. Walk you right into a left hook if he catches you lunging. He does that shit good. And it's good enough to get David Benavidez problems. So when you have all of these, you take that and you add it up, what makes you think he's just about to go in here and just outline this nigga in chalk with no resistance? I really want to answer for that. David Benavidez squaring up in the pocket. You don't think that's going to get him punished in front of somebody who's seen better opposition? How do y'all think he's just going to go in here and just waltz over this dude? It's a good fight, man. It's a great fight. I'm gonna be real. I think it's a 50-50 type of fight. I honestly do. A lot of these fights are 50-50 type of fights. I don't think Anthony Yarde versus Joshua Buatsi is a 50-50 type fight. I think Joshua Buatsi would. I think he'd stunt on I think he fuck around and stun on Anthony Yarde. I honestly do, because of the style matchup. Because of the style. He'll have a harder time in front of David Benavidez than he would Anthony Yarde because of the style matchup. But most of these fights with these contenders are 50-50 type of fights. David is not excluded from that. He is not head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. He is not. He's not just about to go in here and just knock motherfuckers dead. But no, he's not. He's not. If he does, all right, cool, I'm wrong again. I don't have no issue with that. But from what I'm seeing, I don't see a dude that's head and shoulders. I don't see that. How dare you mention my name with anybody not named Benavidez? He's not that guy. David Benavidez versus Anthony Yarde is a damn good fight. It's a great fight. A fight where David is going to get pushed. He's going to get pushed. From what I've seen, he's going to get pushed. And that is good for him. So that's my question to y'all. For the 2 and 3 people that follow me or listen to me or whatever the case may be, please type it in the comment section. What is David Benavidez going to do that just completely offsets that of an Anthony Yarde to the point where he's just going to go in here and just steamroll this nigga? Because I really want to know. I really want to know. And if you're honest, you're going to say it's a good fight. If you're dishonest, you're going to say because Anthony Yarde has a history with running out of gas. Okay. You know who else had that history of running out of gas? Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant kept that man neutralized and frozen out of a fucking entire half of a fight. Now, granted, the style matchup, Caleb Plant was able to do that because he has the feet. But David Benavidez is walking into the lines, and he's walking into the hellfire in front of Anthony Yarde, and Anthony Yarde is a very much so respectable puncher. So can his durability hold up? You dig? Can his volume punching, can that hold up? Can his volume wear down Anthony Yarde? Grind him down. Mainly, there's really gonna be if he's able to deal with those shots and keep marching forward and mentally break them. All right, yeah, cool. Now we on to something. But from what I've saw, man, listen, because it's getting into me giving us some sort of prediction. I ain't doing that yet. What makes David Benavidez the type of fighter that's just gonna go in here and steamroll Anthony Yarde? I want to know that, man. Let me know something, man. Deuces.